to the Difference Maker Show. Today is a really special event because not only do we have an amazing guest, but we also have a co-host. So I'm Lynn Sanders. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the founder of Difference Makers Media and the host today of the Difference Makers Show. And we're also very honored to have Aaron Avila here, who is the host of Stroke TV Media, the Stroke of Genius show. And he is going to also be involved in our conversation with our guest. Our guest is the wonderful Zully Alvarado, founder of Causes for Change International. She has been helping thousands of children in Ecuador over 25 years have proper health care so they can have a better quality of life. She also has been advocating for those with disabilities in the United States, helping them have better access and inclusion. And the connection between all of us, just so you know, is my family went with Zully's program over 3 summers on 3 healthcare missions to Ecuador, which changed our life and which actually motivated me to write a children's story about our experiences that were so transformational. And I'm going to invite you all at the end of the show to be able to be recognized in the book if you'd like to be a sponsor. And Aaron and I know each other through our mutual friend, Roland Takaoka, who was the wingman for my prior shows and who's also Aaron's mentor in Stroke TV Media. So we're all connected through the world of caring and compassion and helping others. So without further ado, I welcome both of you, Aaron and Zully. And I'd like to start with Zully. This is a first for me to have 2 hosts. Zully, will you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are right now? What is your background?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lynn and Aaron, for inviting me to participate here in your show. This is exciting. And most of all, to be able to speak about one of my major passion, which is Causes for Change International. Lynn, I started Causes for Change in as you said, over 25 years ago, to be exactly 1996. Uh, and the reason why is because at that time I found myself with having what I said, given another opportunity for life. I've had many challenges since I was a little girl. When I acquired polio, I became paralyzed from the neck down. And in the small village in Ecuador, being from an impoverished family and so on. But from that experience, I was brought to the U.S. For medical care by what I love, by a missionary priest. So how people from foreign lands came to my village and provided exactly what Causes is about doing now, health, which is was a primary thing, and found out this priest, out of being his first mission, as a matter of fact, being assigned to my country, my birth country, and he found this little girl, and
Wow.
he made the connection, and the rest is history, shall we say, that asked my family if he could bring me to the US. And so I was placed here with an American family and just went on and on. And I was able to do many things that I would have would have never, ever accomplished in my birth country. Because at that time, because I was so severe, they said, they would tell my parents, take her to home to die. There's nothing we can do. And
Wow.
that's what happened. So when I started Causes about 30 some years later, it was because, again, I had just overcome an experience that I was, again, severity of my disability, and I was given another chance at life. So
Wow, what a story. And you really pulled yourself up by your bootstraps, so to speak, that you really had to invent a new life. And I know you were condensing your story for this program, but you also told me that you had to be uprooted from your family as a young girl. You had to leave your family. And then you told me that's also why you started Causes for Change. So children who have healthcare problems in Ecuador don't have to be pulled from their families to get adequate health care.
wow, what a memory. That's
I
great.
remember
That's
that's such a
great.
blessing. So tell us though, so you got inspired to create Causes for Change because you didn't want those children to have the same experience as you did.
It's very
So
much.
tell us what you've learned and what you've done over these past years with
Yes.
Causes.
Yes, with causes, like I said, I started because again, the question is like, now what's my purpose of life? Which, that's the question. What is my purpose? I have been so fortunate to have gotten the education. First of all, gotten the health care here in well, it was in Chicago, Shriners Hospital. And then from there to get the type of education and the family that provided, and so many families really raised me. And to get the not only high school, which at that time, not other family members of mine had not, my biological family had gotten that kind of education. So here I got to finish high school, I got to go on to college and get graduate school, just everything, and have the opportunities to hear from a little girl in a village in Ecuador being working as an assistant to the mayor for the city of Chicago. It was like a dream, an impossible dream of ever imagining. So to get to that height, I had to really had a lot of people that supported me. And then from there, it's like, I want to give this kind of opportunity. There's nothing that should hold us back. And especially nowadays, I would say with today's technologies, as we have here in terms of, we just celebrated Independence Day, and the types of freedoms. It's the freedom that we give ourselves. And for me, it was like, no one is going to tell me no. It's for me, it's to say, yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get the education. Yes, my family there didn't have it. My family here were limited. They were not a wealthy family. There's a lower middle income family here in the States. But they took me in and they gave their hearts. It was all about the hearts. He was a truck driver. He was a truck driver and a housewife who
Wow.
provided me for me, and they took me in and they rescued me. So it's like, it's up to me now. What can I do for other children? What can I do for other families that I've been so fortunate to encounter? And so that's what took me back to my village in Ecuador through causes. That was my first to figure out what can I do? How can I bring my Americas together? How can I bring the people that raised me or that know me in the US one way? How can they really know my roots, and vice versa? How can I create cultural exchanges to take place? And so this is what Causes has been about since its beginning. And it's a 100% volunteer organization, as you mentioned, Lynn. It's all volunteerism. That means I don't get paid through my organization. I have to work. I've always had to work to figure out income for anything that I do for causes, through causes, from not only travel when you participate in the travel, but as you know, asking for all kinds of donations. And I
Yes,
down
yes.
your story about what I asked you to do, what I
Yeah.
asked about, what the book was about, really asking Andrew, a child, to get toys. And
Mhm.
a child can make a life difference for another child. And I think that's what Andrew did in the book that you're writing about. And I think you
Mhm.
can share that part of it.
Right, right. Right, because you know what I think is so wonderful, Sully, and you inspire so many people. No one would even know that you're in a wheelchair because you have such a bright smile and such joy coming from your face, and people wouldn't realize what you've gone through. But I just want to share, Sully gave me a challenge. We went on 3 different trips with her, so I don't remember which was which time, but we gathered supplies both for dentistry and for healthcare needs. And Sully said, Lynn, could you just gather 1,000 beanie babies? Now, I didn't use the word beanie babies in this book because kids might not know it, stuffed animals. And I couldn't say no to her. How could you say no to this beautiful person? So I said, okay. And I thought, I've got to try. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I think I could shoot for 350 toys. I could at least try for that. So I put out the word, I wrote newspaper articles and I put out, messages, and I made posters and called people. And just to tell you, one of the first calls I got was from a mom who said, my two daughters were cleaning out, my daughter and her friend were cleaning out their closet, and we have some Beanie Babes to bring over to you. Can we come over? I don't know if I told you this. So I said, sure, come over. She brought out these huge black plastic garbage bags stuffed with Beanie Babies.
Oh my
There
God.
were 350 in the
Well,
first
no
day.
way.
Yes. I thought,
Hmm.
whoa, I already got 350. I could go for 500, thinking in my mind, well, Sully said 1,000. So guess how many, I tell it in the book, guess how many toys we ended up with? Aaron, can you have any idea?
1,000. It's got to be 500.
1,800.
Oh my
1,800. And
God.
we gave out every one. Every one.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then there was one that had a little note. I had to show it to Zully. I don't want to spend the whole. I want you to talk, but it had a note from a little child written in childish handwriting. This is Fuzzy Bear. Please take very good care of him. So the story also incorporates the journey of our son Andrew with little Fuzzy Bear, who had to find the right home.
Yes.
You
And
know.
that reminds me about Fuzzy Bear, because one of the part of my story that we visited the orphanage that I lived in.
Oh, that
Yes,
was your orphanage? I
yes,
didn't realize
yes,
that.
that was the orphanage that after I being here in the States in the first few years of my life, and then I was sent back, thinking that they could place me back, and that's why I said I don't want a child to go through the trauma that I went through, trying to be sent back. And so, since my parents couldn't take care of me, I was placed in an orphanage. And so I wanted to go back and visit the orphanage, because I remember living in the orphanage. Why having this toy was so critical, or that I was committed to that every child that goes through with causes, goes through the receiving care, have a toy, because many children in the villages do not have toys. And so, especially in the orphanage, how can you have a child go to bed when they have no one to hug them at night? They could have a toy. And so that's why, for me, I wanted to make sure that every child in the orphanage had a toy they could call their own when they went to bed, because even when in the have any space that you could call your own. And so it is a sad situation when don't have that. And so that's what Fuzzy Bear, to have this child who also had heart problems at that time, we were able to give Fuzzy Bear to. And so we had to meet the perfect child. And I remember saying, to him, we'll find it. We'll find it. Child will find us. And we did. And I said, don't worry, Fuzzy Bear will find a place.
He's become
You know,
famous.
can I say something?
Go ahead, please, Aaron.
I want the audience to know. I did a show this morning with a man named Keith Taylor who had a stroke, but it gave him a purpose. The title of my show was "Find the Purpose in Your Storm." In Zully, you find your purpose in the storm. I found my purpose in the storm. Your storm was your polio. My storm was a brain aneurysm and stroke. But do you see what it did? It directed you toward your purpose in life. And your purpose was to be a servant to people.
Yes. And to help others realize that they can make a difference. Because like here, I didn't think I could even do it, but Zully inspired me to go forward. I'd like you to share what your message is, your motto that I put on the cover of this interview, and how you came up with it. I love it so much.
Yeah. It's Causes for Change starts with one. And I remember when I started Causes, it was up to me to start with one, whether I had the thought that I had heard volunteers through volunteering organizations that I thought, well, you had to die in order to live like the life insurance policy or some kind of legacy. And I thought, no, I don't want to wait until then, because by that time I'll be gone, but I want to do something now. And I may not have the $1,000 or the $1 million or whatever, or I don't have an office. But then I thought, no, Causes for Change is going to be different. We don't need the bricks and mortars to start anything. As long as the time the phone came through, I had a computer, and I feel my office is wherever I am. So it starts with one. And so I remember I said, to start this, I have the first trip, the one volunteer that will go with me.
One volunteer?
One volunteer.
Wow.
This one volunteer, I said that was the very, very first trip. It starts with one. And from that the following year, it was, I think, 10 and 15, because I had two trips. And then it just kept growing and growing. One year I had 30. I said, that's too much for one trip. And it's and it gets so much collection, but it all starts with one. And it's one volunteer, $1, one seed, just like when we plant on the ground, it starts with one seed. That one apple seed grows into a big tree to provide many, many apples. The same thing for what we do. That one volunteer helped me to provide services and change the lives of many families in the first 2 weeks that we were there. And to that, I stopped counting after we stopped helping over 20,000 children. So I no longer count because I figured that child, even with you, look at how many people, as a result of that first trip,
Right.
you've
There
taught
were
me.
hundreds every day. I want to bring out too what you point out. One makes a difference. I never realized, and maybe your listeners don't realize that if you don't have dental care, and my husband was a dentist, you could die.
Yes.
And there were kids who had abscesses. They had never seen a dentist. They were terrified when they just saw a shot. And Joel was giving them a shot of Novocaine, but they were afraid. And he was actually saving people's lives because
Yes.
if it never got treated, they would die. And so people would walk for hours, for days to come to these remote places. And Sully had arranged the whole trip ahead of time where we were going to go. People had never seen foreigners before.
Right.
And one woman even asked me, well, why are you doing this? They weren't used to volunteers. And we said, we just want to be here,
It reminded me of that child. I don't know that Dr. Sanders, your husband with Joel saw, was that he'd been watching this little boy. He didn't belong because we started to use the schools. Because we thought was that if we teach the children in the schools, the child will teach their parents about toothbrushing and oral hygiene. So the child is the best teacher for the family, for the parent in that instance. So, but there was this child that did not go to school, and he had been observing day after day. And he saw that every child would come out with a toy. And he had been going to the area where we set up all the toys, and he had seen this car. And he wanted a car, a little toy car, just, those little race cars. And he says, how many teeth? And to finally tell the volunteer, how many teeth do I have to give to get the toy? He did say, so I won't cry. I want that car.
Wow.
So he wanted the little toy car because he didn't, So we said, no, you don't have to give. Let's see what the doctor said. How many teeth? He needed a lot of teeth.
Oh my gosh.
But he just so valiantly just decided he wanted that car so bad, wanted to know how much that was.
Wow.
It's like, no, it was just always all the stories that really in doing this type of mission. And I just touch base on that. We did that. But we've also helped people in so many other ways, as you mentioned, disability.
Right. I want you to talk about what you're doing in the United States.
Yeah,
to help those with disabilities.
I would say, as I said, the Americas, we've done a lot of work in Panama. We've done some work in Costa Rica, and then, of course, the U.S.
Oh, okay.
Because this is my home now, and there are people here suffering as well. And we never know when disability, as Aaron knows, and many of the people that he encounters and works with, when disability will touch us. It's just in a moment. Sometimes we don't know when it's going to deal with us. But we've growing up all along, we always, as a child with a disability, think it's like it's my fault, or that's how society has always prepared us. It's our fault. We have to be fixed in order to function, instead of looking at it the other way around. What can this, there are stairs in the way, or how can I deal with the transportation, or there's in the parks, for example, everything is grass, no sidewalks or no accessible paths for wheelchair users or people who uses canes or walkers. So I advocate I've been talking to people, organizations, public speaking about how can we make changes to include all. It doesn't have to be all the wheelchair users, people who use wheelchairs, but let's say people who have low vision, people who are deaf, non-visible disabilities. So throughout Chicago, always, and Indiana, everywhere in the Midwest, I've always been speaking on behalf of the rights of people with disabilities, was part of making sure that the Americans with Disabilities was passed. I worked with Easter Seals a variety of ways. And now it's been also employment. Or housing. So employment is the key thing. It's like, especially with that technology today. Yes, we're so fortunate to have like the iPhone as being one of the first that had voice activation, or Alexa or Siri, all of that's voice activation. But who started all of that? Why was it all created? Does anyone ever ask? It's because of people like myself, people with disabilities, who constantly said, how about me? How about me? The blind cannot see this graphic. How can we have interpretation? Or the deaf cannot read lips. How can we have interpretation? Or the people with dyslexia, their letters are totally mixed up when they read. Their brain, their brains send different messages. So we constantly have to remind ourselves and educate ourselves about who, and ask the question, who's missing? Who's not at the table? How can we get this person at the table? How can we get this person to this event? If we're having a special event, a picnic, a wedding, or whatever, someone may be missing that we really want there. Why are they missing? It's not that they don't want to be there. They want to be there. It's that somehow the place is not as accessible as we would like it to be for that person to be included. So it's really important, up to us as the host, as to us in the individual, to ask the question. Ask the question, who's missing? Why aren't they here? Do you want them here? So what's the purpose for this event? What's the purpose for this activity? What's the purpose for this trip? What's the purpose for this? And what am I doing about it? Don't blame someone else. What am I doing about it? Always comes to me. And I have the power to change. It's causes for change. I am the cause to change. The change begins with me.
The change.
You're the difference maker.
Yes, she is. She is. So what do you recommend people do, of Zully, to help you in your mission? So my book is one step, and I will put up the visual for it. I would love people. I want people to realize the book is not just the children's book, and that's why I'm self-publishing. For those who are publishers or authors, if you go to a traditional publishing company, they're the boss, and they're going to decide what's in the book and what's not, and they take most of the revenue. So this book will also include information at the back about Zully, about causes for change. We're going to have a resource section for those with disabilities, so that people can look at this book and say, oh, here's where I can get more help. Because everybody probably knows somebody, right, who needs help.
So is the book published on now?
So that's a good question. The book is called Adventures in Ecuador. I'm going to see if I can pull it up. Diary of a Volunteer. And it's written from the imagined viewpoint of our son, Andrew, who was a volunteer with us. He was the toothbrushing teacher. And I was the music entertainer in the 90-plus degree heat with a borrowed guitar. Zully found someone with the guitar. I entertained the children with musical songs and games while they waited for their first ever dental session or extraction. I don't, because there were no fancy tools. My husband Joel just worked with his hand tools, and someone shined a flashlight over the patient's head. There was no equipment, and so it was. The kids were scared. So my job was to keep them relaxed and occupied with other things until they went in to see the dentist, And Andrew was teaching them how to brush their teeth because they never had a toothbrush before. They didn't know what to do. And he used bottled water, and he put the water in little cups because he didn't know if the water was clean. So all these experiences got me so excited that I thought I have to share the story. And I still remembers I wrote some articles that were published after our trip, but they were local. And then I thought, let's share this experience with more people, both children and families, because the story can be captured through an imaginary viewpoint of Andrew. He was there. And we can also shine a light on causes for change and put in Zully's information so people who need help can reach out to Zully. Right?
Yes.
So would you like to share what are the things that people can do right now? And then we'll have you share your information and the book information. What can they do to help you in your mission, Zully?
Well, first, I would say just go into the website, causesforchange.org. And that's the domain name. Causes for Change is right here with me. Or and then private message me and using my name, Zully JF Alvarado. You can Google my name anywhere and see some articles. But I think through Causes for Change, I think that's the first thing. And going back to the question, what can I do? So we all have skills. We all have different needs and that we can provide, as you said, whether it's $1 to donate. The key thing is right now getting the book published. I really would love to see that book published because there will be other books following this book.
Yes. Zully has her own books as well. So this book which is under. I'll spell out the. I'll spell out the link, and we can add it to this video. It's crowdfunder, crowdfundr.com/adventures in Ecuador. So you all know that a children's book has to have illustrations. It's different than an adult book, and it costs more to do a children's book because the children want to see great pictures. So we're going to be working with Sergio Drummond, who did my second children's book, Dancing with Tex, The Remarkable Friendship to Save the Whooping Cranes. We're working with Sergio on this book, but his fee is $3,000. So that's just one. And then there's formatting, publishing, and marketing. So I need to be able to cover those costs. And of course, I'm already putting out some of my money too. We do have a book cover, which we can post later. But if you're able to support this by going to the link, which we'll post on the page, and put in any amount of money, from $10 to $1,000 to $5,000 to $1, whatever. As Zully says, it starts with one. It all adds up. And right now, at the time of this recording, we're around $1,890 or something like that. Several people had said they were going to, be a sponsor. And I'm thinking that I probably will extend the crowdfunding by a couple more weeks because it's supposed to be over in 1 week. And we really need to have a bit more to get going.
And all is, as I said, it all just takes one. If we have that donor out there that's listening right now, that's that one person who wants to really make a difference, doesn't know what to do, or wants to make that open, really, they've been doing already, but it's like we will really know the impact that it's going to have. This book is going to reach unimaginable number of people. And this is the story that will trickle to many, many generations, because it's like I said, it always starts with that question, what can I do? And this is a family that did something for other families and impacted their lives. I'll just share one more story here. Please. About the dental. It's just one of the very first missions that we did. We donated toothbrushes. It was about 3 years ago. That was back, imagine, the 90s, later 90s, when we did our first mission. One toothbrush. Here, about 3 years ago, I got a call from Ecuador. They want to know, when are you coming back? There's a man in the village who wants to know when you're coming back because they never forgot you. You gave them the toothbrush, and he could no longer use the toothbrush. He's been using his finger.
Oh my gosh.
That toothbrush lasted him all these years. I cannot imagine what the toothbrush was like. So that's the difference that this book will make in getting the story out and how we've impacted lives.
Wow.
That is so huge. I guess it's
something.
Kudos for you, Zully, for doing what you're doing. But I want everybody, because I'm telling what you said really resonates with me. It starts with the one. I ask you out there, you're the one. You are the one. How do they donate to your cause again? Plug them.
So we can go two ways because Zully also has her books. We could either go to crowdfunder.com/adventures in Ecuador, or we can also direct people to Zully's website, causesforchange.org. You can also write Zully, ZULLY, at causesforchange.org. And I'm Lynn at differencemakersmedia.com. But we'll put the links in our post. And we want everyone to remember with the message. Tell us again, what would you like people to remember before we leave?
For me, I would definitely would say it's up to them. It's their life. They have someone in their family. Look around. Sometimes we take things for granted. Or it could just be us. Just recently, my husband had 2 heart attacks. Here, I depend on him. I've depended on him. Now he depends on me for quite some time. So we depend on each other now. That's how close it is. So here I depend on him to, especially living in the Midwest with the snow and the cold and all that kind of stuff. We moved now to Florida, but it's just within ourselves, look at ourselves, our own needs. We will always be changing. Disability can impact us at any moment. And it's not just about disability. It's about a child's education. It's about healthcare. Yes, healthcare sometimes is just a temporary need, but as we age, we're impacted all the time. So it's now time to take preventive measures. Look at your home, make sure your home is accessible for yourself and for those that will be visiting. People may not visit you because they can't get into your house, can't get into your
Right.
bathroom, can't get into the park. So it starts there. It starts with one, it starts with you. Look within and look without.
Beautiful. I love that. It starts with one, everyone. Each one of you are making a difference. So it is time for us to close our show. I want to thank you, Zully, for being an amazing guest as always and an inspiration to so many. And Aaron, for all the good work you do in making a difference and helping stroke survivors around the world. Together, we're all making a difference. And each one of you listening makes a difference. Just remember, you can go and just do one act of kindness and you can uplift someone's day. You never know what that can mean. So thank you all. And we will
Thank
look forward to hearing from you. Take
you.
care and all the best.